For 2025, I decided to take on a challenge to create at least three basic color palettes every week that I will share on my socials. I think color palettes are sometimes a very difficult subject for some people. So today I am showing you how to create your own color palettes in the easiest way possible. While having interesting color palettes is extremely fun to work with, I do feel like it also boosts your artwork. Having those creative juices flowing with your color palette you've chosen really helps bring your designs together, whether you're a graphic designer, you're an artist, or you just love color in general. While I'm not an expert on color theory, I do know parts of it. So I will describe the terms that I'm using in case anyone is not familiar with them. But I do think it's an extremely easy way to create a palette, and that should help you just develop that skill if you are struggling with it. The palettes on screen are the ones I released last week to just help inspire other people. They are the base colors, but then I make them more complex by adding hue, saturation, and brightness variations to them, which gives us these 25 color palettes. So I'm going to show you how to get to this final result. And when you have your five first initial shades chosen, it's quite easy to get to this more complex palette that will help you add depth to your artwork. So let's get to it. The two color theory terms I want to touch on a bit today is analogous and complementary. If you have knowledge in this, I will probably not teach you anything new. But if you're not familiar with the term, complementary means it's the opposite on the color wheel. So the color that is opposite to blue would be orange. So these two colors are considered complementary. So they work together well. The other term is analogous. So, analogous are the colors that are besides each other in the color wheel. So, for blue, you would have purple and green. For yellow, you would have green and orange. Those are also going to add some harmony to your palettes, and I may use those terms later on. So, I really wanted you to have the basic definition of what they are. While I may occasionally have the inspiration to create a palette completely from scratch, it rarely happens. And I think that's where some artists will block on creating their own color palettes. Personally, I use reference pictures. So I'm going to show you the process to get from a reference picture to the basic color palette. My biggest tip on this is I never start with existing palettes in the pictures when I create them. I always go to find a picture that pops out to me. It allows me to take more creative freedom and analyze what I like about the picture. So instead of restricting myself to what was the initial palette that was chosen by someone else, I feel like it creates more interesting palettes and makes the most out of my creative flow when I just start from a picture. In this case, Pinterest is my best friend for this. I do love to go with food related pictures because the colors are more vibrant and that speaks to me more. But whether you want to do landscapes or objects or other artwork that you like the colors of, you can really play around with whatever you want as the main picture. So I do have a few that I selected already, and I think that for now, I'm going to go with this one here. So basically, I'm just going to import the picture into Procreate, and then I'm going to color pick whatever feels right in this picture. It's really an idea of how you feel about the colors, because while some people might like the, let's say, the kind of lilac that there's in the background, personally, it's not the color that stands out to me. You're going to pick the five colors you like the most in the picture and just create some swatch circles of them. So we're gonna start with this, and we might tweak those initial colors, but I think it's a good start. Like I already see that this kind of champagne one is a bit too dark for my liking. So I'm just go for a lighter version of this already. Yeah, I like this way more already. So then you can get rid of the picture if you want to. Like I will not need this because it's just a base of whatever speaks to me, but then I like to work on my own things to not get too influenced by the picture anymore. I don't want to like recreate exactly the picture. I want to create a palette that stands out to me. Now you are at the point where you can create a new palette. If you look at Cold Leaves or Golden Cardinal below the new palette, you see that I give 5 spaces for each shade. So we're gonna add our swatches to the middle section of those. So in this case, I'm going to drop this here, and the order in which you drop them is not super important. So just go as you see fit. Like in my case, I think I'm going to put this one here, the champagne here, and this one over here. Now we can tweak everything. So I'm going to clear my layer and go and swatch everything. I like to swatch them a tiny bit one over the other because I feel like you can see the interaction between the shades a bit more. All right, so I'm going to hide the background for now. I mostly like what's going on here, but I feel that my white shade is a bit too white. It could be a bit more pinky just to harmonize more with the rest. And I do like the orangey champagne, but I think it could be a bit more rose gold to fit with our palette a bit better. So I'm going to go with my champagne color, and I think it's going to be more red. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to pull it more to the pink side. I like this. This is more of a rose gold, and I like that. I'm just going to drop the color there, and we're also going to move our white so it's a bit more pink here. Yeah. So now that we have our 2 modified colors, we're just going to do the same swatch pattern and see how we feel about everything with our new colors. While the difference may not be super intense, you can see that there's more harmony in the right palette because everything is a bit more pink tinted. In this case, I think the rose gold could be a tiny bit more pink again. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase my initial palette and tweak it a little more. At this point, I can delete the initial swatch. I'm happy with the white-ish. And this one, I want a tiny bit more pink again. Okay, maybe this. So again, I'm going to swatch it, and we're going to select probably one of these. Again, the difference is really minimal, but you have more warm orange hues on the right and more cool hues that fit the pink and the kind of pinky purple. So I really like the left one best. At this point, it's really personal taste. You may want a warmer tone, you may want a cooler tone. At this point, you just select whatever feels best and tweak individual colors until you're happy with the result. Then you are ready for our next step. Next step is going to get your 25 shades ready. So you're going to draw a circle. It doesn't need to be perfect. In my case, I used the draw and hold, so my circle was perfect, but you don't have to do that because this file may not ever be seen by anyone else but you. So we're going to go ahead and pull our 5 colors in the middle. If you watched last week's video, you know how I like to create those 5 colors. So not only will I go, let's say, deeper with my color, but I also change the hue in one direction. I would go for a plum. I think it's not dark enough, but the shade is not exactly the same. You're going to see a transition that will add depth to your design. So we're going to do that again. Let's pull it darker, change the hue in the pink direction, and pull this one. This is not enough contrast for me. Awesome. Then you're going to go back to your middle color. You're going to make it lighter and pull your hue slider in the opposite direction. So in this case, it's in the blue direction. And we're going to do that again one time. So our purple now has some lighter bluer shades and some darker more pink leaning shades. So we're going to repeat this process for every single color. Since I have a lot of light shades here, I changed my background color to this charcoal gray. It's going to be easier to see the rest of the work. In this case, I think there's way too much like almost white shades. So you have all like five, three in the first row and two in the second. That's too many shades that are looking exactly the same. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to move them along a tiny bit. I'm going to start by making, let's say, the first two a completely different color just to not mess up. And I'm going to move these shades to the left. And we're going to just pull that pink and put it at the end. So we need a darker color and a lighter one, but it's gonna remove at least one of the whiter colors. So at this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete my swatches I've used and move that initial shade to the left as well. Then I'm just going to pull the colors I know I like. And now we can play around with a deeper shade again, like this. Maybe a bit deeper as well. And now a lighter one. So now we're going to do the same with the other rectangle here. I'm going to speed this up, but same process. So while there are still two really light, almost white shade, we have a white and a off-white. So that's still very reasonable. But the rest of the palette has upgraded and there's less of that white shade. So now is the time to just go ahead and color pick every single one of your dots and fill up your palette. You can always keep tweaking as much as you want for it to be more in the realm of what you want to use as a palette, but I am personally happy with this. One, because there are quite a variety of pinks and like tans, which just allow me to play around with that quite a lot. And I do really like that there's some blues going on from the initial purple. If I wanted to, I could make it more saturated, but in this case, since the pinks and the oranges are more saturated, I feel like the blue being more muted fits well with the rest. If we go back to our terms, blue is analogous to purple and pink, so it fits well. And blue is complementary to orange, which also fits well. So basically, I think it is quite a balanced color palette while still having interesting elements. So that's the one I'm going to go for. Now, all you have left to do is to name your palette. In this case, I'm going to call this one Peony Perfume, and it is ready to go. Now you just have to create this technique. You can use with whatever picture, whatever palette you want to create, whatever colors you want initially. It's now your turn to experiment and figure out color palettes that you enjoy, and you will see inspiration really strikes when you find palettes that speak to you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick tutorial about color palettes. If you have any question, be sure to drop them in the comment. I would love to answer those for you. And I invite you to watch my previous video, which was Valentine's Day plaid for an easy seasonal pattern to add to your portfolio. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time.